Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and our welcome guests. This was a topical subject last week. Unfortunately, I couldn't make it, so you're going to hear last week's speech tonight. And I'm going to take you back with me a long time. I'm going to be 70 years old in a couple of weeks. And I'm going to take you back to my very early childhood, 10, 12 years old, in grade school, and talk about something that I thought was very important at the time to all of us. And that was that all of us, boys and girls growing up, we all had heroes. It didn't make any difference, what your interests in life were at that time. You didn't have many more beyond the ball field, or if you were a girl, the dolls or whatever girls did for amusement. But one thing that all of us had was a hero. Because in the sports world, we all worshipped a guy named Stan Musial, now is a Hall of Famer. At that time, Stan lived about 2 blocks from me. And every Saturday morning, 8 or 10 of us would be down on Stan's driveway, pestering the poor man for autographs. I must have had 100 of Stan Musial's autographs. Red Shandies lived in the neighborhood. Joe Garagiola lived in the neighborhood. We knew them. We didn't believe they ever had to take a bath. They never cursed. They were our heroes. They were what we wanted to be when we grew up. Now, if you weren't interested in sports, maybe you were interested in some of your family heroes. Men and women who served in the war. This was right after World War II. So all of the returning veterans gave us a good example of what was patriotism and what's worth fighting for, and why did many of our friends and relatives, people that I didn't even know, I just heard about, never came back from faraway places. They were our heroes. They were what we wanted to be someday when we grew up. It was a very simple time. Our parents didn't have parental controls. For one thing, television just came into being, and there was only probably 3 channels, but they never worried about what we watched on television, and you never heard a dirty word. It just didn't happen. We could go to any movie. I don't think I ever went to a movie when I was young that was a bad movie, that had bad language, that had, Bob and Sue jump into bed. It just didn't happen. So all the movie stars, John Wayne, he was a rough and tough cowboy. He must have killed 1,000 people. But you know what? I never saw a drop of blood. That didn't happen. He never cursed. He never took the girl to bed. He was my hero. There were so many others. Jimmy Stewart. Jimmy Stewart was a war hero. He flew airplanes in the Second World War. He came back and made 100 movies. It's a wonderful life. He was one of the guys that I would have liked to have patterned my life after. And in many respects in my life, I think I did have some semblances of the John Waynes and the Jimmy Stewarts and on and on and on, the Stan Musials. But things began to change somewhere along the line. I don't exactly know where it was. I think, when I look back on it, it could have been Vietnam. That might have been the tip of the iceberg. But in about that era, the mid-'60s, the late '60s, we also had this big eruption of anything goes. The televisions, or the movies rather, were just rife with sex and violence, and things became more dark. You had to really be careful of the movies that your kids went to. Mine were too young at the time, but as they got older, it got worse. But, for a young person, there were so many movies that you just simply could not send a kid or let a kid go to see, boy or girl. And things continued down that path to the point that we're at where we're at today. You want to find a sports hero? I can remember watching Mark McGuire. thinking, boy, that's a pretty clean-cut guy. He's, he looks pretty good. He's hitting home runs like crazy. The kids all like him. Well, you can scratch Mark. How about politicians? You don't even have to go into politicians. You know, their exploits are epic. So what does a kid do today? Where does he find a hero? And what does a hero mean to a kid today? I mean, does he have any concept of, that's a person I'd like to pattern my life after? I hope when I grow up, I can be blank. Who would blank be? That's a difficult question. There aren't many heroes today. Most of us, most of the personalities, most of the stars, you find out as time goes by, and because the press and because of the media has been so exploitive, rightfully or wrong, there's clay feet everywhere. Somewhere along the line, that person, that man, that woman that your child might have idolized could turn out to be a Mark McGuire who got big and strong because he was drinking the wrong juice. That's not what you want to teach kids. But what do they do? Where are the heroes? Well, there was a basketball player that was a very good basketball player. And he retired a few years ago. His name was Charles Barkley. Anybody remember Charles? Mm-hmm. Not exactly a hero. Not by any stretch. But Charles did say one thing I agree with. And he didn't say it for all the right reasons, but he said, hell, we're not heroes. Parents are heroes. We're out there playing basketball and making money. And in a crude way, he said the truth. If you want a hero for your kids, you be the hero. If you want a hero for your friends on the street, your relatives, somebody, somebody that you met at work, well, you be the hero. It's awfully easy today to look around and not find that hero, that role model that you can pattern your life after. So I would just simply leave you with this. Don't be nebbish, be a hero.